What's up, guys? Welcome back to Size, Strength, and Bro Science. I'm Neil Austin, your host, better known as Big Freaking Neil. And I'm joined by a guest today that I'm very excited about. He's sitting there with all kinds of hardware behind him, which we'll hear more about for sure, with the double buy and the hardware. Ty Center, everybody. Met each other at Gold's, right? Our first training job together. Actually, technically, when you and I met, you were my boss.
Right.
You were the training manager.
I went from Kirkland to Woodinville, and you had already been on that Woodinville team.
That's right. So you joined the team, and you were the training manager over at Gold's. How was I as an employee? Be honest. Was I a good employee?
Bro, you were a really good employee. You were a really good worker, really good trainer, really good employee. And I'm surprised that you were so amicable and easy to work with, because you were going through that transition, man. When I first met you, you were puffed up like the Michelin Man, you know. And I remember when you couldn't put your arms down to your sides, man. You were so big.
Yeah, dude. I definitely a different look back in the day for sure.
It's out for you though, that's for sure.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I'm a big believer in, and maybe you'll agree or disagree, I think when you're going from being really small and putting on a substantial amount of muscle, we all have that sort of necessary sloppy period, you know? Right. It's like you got to pay your dues and get kind of sloppy before you can actually be big and in decent shape.
You got to wait. Sometimes that's what it takes, you know.
Exactly. Sometimes you just got to get big. And guys. So when I started working at Gold's, I was probably, I think I was like 260, something like that. Big boy. What was that? You cut out for a second.
Did you go up from there? I thought you got a little more than that at one point.
The biggest I got to, I think, was 285 was where I peaked out. And then that's right before I went and did that first competition. And I think my stage weight was like 211 or something. So I dropped 75 pounds for that first prep that I did.
That's doing it big, man. That's a lot of work.
Dude, it was just too much weight. I had no business being that heavy. But like I said, I feel like it built that solid base of muscle for me. And if I could go back, I'd probably do it a little different, not get quite as Michelin Man, but you know, it is what it is.
I think it worked, man. I think it did the trick for you. And you know, this sport is a long-term deal. You know, when we're in the day, you know, it feels like you can only see the end of the day, or you can only see the end of that workout. But then it's a long-term deal. And so, you know,
it's a long haul for sure.
Taking your time with it, but also making your time effective, you know, and getting to your goals within a reasonable amount of time really helps the whole process to keep the momentum, you know, and keep you moving forward. Because if you're not seeing progress and you're not seeing changes that are moving the direction that you have in mind, whether it's gaining weight, losing weight, whatever the case may be that you've got in your mind, you know, you gotta see progress on those. Otherwise it gets kind of, you know, like, oh, I'm pushing up against this wall and it just doesn't want to move. So, you know,
100%.
It's good.
100%. There's nothing more motivating than actually seeing that needle tick, right? Than actually seeing the progress and the changes. That actually brings me to a question that I don't actually know about you. When you first started lifting, were you skinny like me as a kid, and then you had to work to get bigger? Like, what was your starting point?
Yeah, good question. So I started, I would say you know, I've been training a long time, know a lot about fitness and stuff. I started I would say a bit early, but not really. I mean, just kind of when your body starts maturing, you know, around like age 11 or 12, I took a look around and I'm like, I didn't think these the Cheetos and Mountain Dew would add up to hot dog arms, but here we are now.
Right.
So maybe I should do something about it. But I've always had just a lot of energy as a kid, and just kind of had this extra energy that I didn't really know what to do with. And so I was always getting into trouble, whether it was, skidding my bike across the driveway or, putting jumps together that were way too big to be messing with, or, building rope swings out of trees and crap as a youngster. So anyways, started kind of maturing, and I was like, I think I saw a couple of Arnold movies.
There you go. Oh man.
Yeah, I saw Terminator 2. Yep. And with my father, my father had some weights in the garage that he would mess with every once in a while, and he would kind of show me a thing or two. And then after I saw Arnold in a couple of movies, I started asking my dad about fitness and about training and about just, hey, like, how do I do that? That looks really impressive. I want to do that. Arnold's a person. Maybe I'm a person. Maybe I can get something similar. So started getting interested in it. He taught me how to do pull-ups and push-ups and some leg exercises, and that started going good, but I didn't really do anything with it. Right. I just kind of did it a few times. I got a little sore and I was like, okay, that's what that is. And then I started to kind of get interested in other things, more competitive ventures. Some of my friends started playing football. They were talking about it. And I asked my parents, I was like, hey, can I do that? Yeah. Started playing football, and with like organized conditioning and coaching, and still as a youngster, I think I was like 11 or 12 years old still at this time, started seeing results. I remember like we had done, a few weeks of workouts, and these were like 5 days a week or something. And I remember like 3 or 4 weeks in, I'm going to the bathroom in the morning, and like I sit down and I look at my legs, and I'm like, holy crap. Like, I don't even like recognize my legs anymore. Like, dang, look at the muscles and stuff, and this is a youngster. So that kind of got me motivated. And then I started really pushing myself and started seeing that, the work and the further you push into, your performance, the more your body's going to give you to a degree. Right.
Dude, that's so funny you say that, because I remember, looking at the exact same thing of like losing the thigh gap when you're sitting on the toilet. I remember the exact same thing you're talking about. Yeah. That's hilarious.
Yeah, so I started out a little bit like overweight, and and there was also around the similar time, I think this was 5th or 6th grade, there was a day in PE class where the PE instructor, she brought out the calipers, right? Okay. The skin fold calipers. And so this was we're going to test everybody's body fat today in 6th grade. And I think I had like a mid-30 number. Okay. And all my other friends, they were like in the 20s or maybe the teens. And I'm like, what's going on here? So, but I was, I was probably dehydrated. And plus I had been doing those Mountain Dew and Cheetos pretty decent. Sure. So,
sure. It was, plus you're in 6th grade. So like your musculature hasn't even matured at all at that point. Right.
No. Not even a chance. So, but sports, I feel like the sports and the training and, getting those reps and doing those sets and, pushing my body, whether it was running or bear crawls or, football drills or whatever, that stuff, I felt like it helped my body start adapting and start maturing for sport and for fitness. So then I really liked football. I kept playing football, started doing some other sports to complement football, like wrestling and a little bit of track. And, was always like running back or like fullback or offensive line or defensive line. I usually, was pretty busy on the field. Got to the end of high school and had some leadership opportunities with some of these teams, like captain and just kind of leadership positions. Cool. And went really well. And I was helping a lot of my other fellow teammates to, get more performance or get more out of what they were doing. And I was like, man, I really like this. I really like coaching and helping people get to the goals they have in mind and finding that same level of like control and success and confidence within themselves and within their body that I had found, through sports and through fitness. And so I chose to pursue an education in the field. So my degree is in clinical physiology. Cool. A lot of studies on nutrition as well. And clinical physiology was basically exercise science and kinesiology with more focus on like organ systems and the body as a unit, and how the body adapts and how the body, uses stimulus to get different types of results, whether it's in a clinical setting or, in a more therapeutic or like kind of recreational sports setting as well. So
sounds like a perfect degree for a upcoming trainer for sure.
Yeah.
Nice.
I was going through the degree and I remember like, man, I'm learning some good stuff and I'm really having fun, help a lot of people. And so I think it's been working out pretty good. Then when I was in college, I turned out for a couple of weeks of football, but man, I was only like 180 pounds at that point, maybe 185 pounds, which was a good weight for high school football. You can get after it. College football, though, some of those guys got 3 or 4 years on you. They got 40, 50, 60 pounds on you, dog. They're going to toss you around. So
there's some big boys in college ball for sure.
Oh, yeah. So I was like, maybe I'll think twice about the football thing. So then I just kept training in college. And then I kind of got like recruited to try out for like gymnastics and cheerleading and like stunt team group. And so this was mainly cheerleaders and then a few guys that would lift them as like a stunt base, right? And hold the cheerleaders up by their feet or by the skirt or whatever. Sure. Yeah. And so that I got into that sport for 3 solid years in college, and that was really good. It was very explosive most of the time, mainly like kind of like some like Olympic barbell competitive style lifting, a lot of cleans, a lot of jerks, and then a lot of like high pulls and snatch type stuff to really get that explosive drive going. But that was fun, stacking pyramids that are like 4 or 5 people high and doing those basket throws and chucking the girl like 50, 60, feet in the air. Like those are some fun.
That's awesome, man. I definitely didn't know that about you. I never would have guessed that was one of your avenues into it. That's great. Oh
yeah. Yeah, I've always in that season, when you're doing the stunt team and the cheerleading gymnastics, that season is long as a normal sports season because you do the whole football season, then you do the entire basketball season. And so having that structure has always like helped me to get my whole life like in order. If I have that organized thing that I really look forward to, like a training session or a sports session or practice, whatever the event, it forces me to get my whole life dialed in so that everything is going to happen online to that event. And I really like
that. Was probably like a really good sort of really early introduction to what being on prep is like too, right? Having that on season versus off season and preparing for the specific event, like it's sort of like your little introduction to bodybuilding too.
Yeah. And, and you're out in front of thousands of people, you got to get comfortable in front of crowds and stuff, and you're yelling at them and doing all stuff. And there was many times where I slipped or I fell and I, had to pick myself up, dust it off. And, all right. Everybody's laughing. Hi. Yeah, here I am,
Right. That builds character, man. That builds character. I'm guessing you probably didn't have to do it in like a little Speedo with a spray tan, which helps, but
it was a few years yet to come,
That's down the road. Yep.
Yeah. We were in uniforms and stuff. Yeah. It was a little easier per se that way.
Yeah.
But, hey, that's why that prep is crucial, man. You're going to get up there with the banana hammock in front of thousands of people. You better be rocking the spot. You better be looking your best.
You better be ready. Exactly. Yeah. Well, let's get into that a little bit. So at what point, how long from where we left off here, was it before you started looking into competing? Did you establish yourself as a personal trainer before a bodybuilder or vice versa?
Yeah. Yes, I did. So while I was in college, I was also strength and conditioning coordinator for that gymnastics and stunt and cheerleading team for a good solid 3 years. So that was pretty cool. Had a key to the athletic weight room and stuff, and we would organize workouts and do all that. So that was like my first real experience of training, because I had just helped my buddies in high school, but I didn't really know what I was doing, and we were all just kind of watching each other on the bench or whatever, like, oh yeah, I think it looks good, man. Put some more weight on there, get out of the way, let's go, So my first real training experience was probably like 2008, working with the athletes. And definitely, training athletes and folks before, and had messed around with a few friends in the gym. They're like, hey, teach me how to, lift some weights and stuff. And so I have basic types of stuff there. Then let's see. Yeah. So then graduated college, 2011. And then I didn't have my sport anymore. You know, for the first time, I didn't have a school to represent or anything. So I got into CrossFit, and I did some CrossFit for about a year. Got really pretty far along with the workouts, and that was good. But then, you know, kind of like typical CrossFit hard-headed athlete, knocking your head against injuries and stuff. And it's like, I don't know if this is going to be the best longevity for me. So,
cool. Did you do any like CrossFit competitions at all, or just the training?
Little bit, okay. Just local stuff, you know, just messing around, local stuff, and did pretty well.
Nice.
Set some good times and set some good weights and some good numbers on those workouts. But again, I was after some of the football injuries and then a couple injuries from training during college that really kind of, you know, woke me up to like, okay, you better take care of this machine if you want it to make it, you know, long haul. So CrossFit kind of, you know, started giving me that heads up again. And then I was like, well, maybe I'll try powerlifting. And so I think that I just kept training for a while without a sport. And then I think while we were working together with Bernard was there, you know, at doing the powerlifting thing. So I worked with him, I want to say for like 8 or 9 months. And I did this competition right here and the powerlifting, and that was fun. That was really good. And then you remember Keith Watson?
I do. Yeah.
Yeah. He still competes. He's doing a different line of work now. And I think he lives in Oregon.
I saw him. I'm actually not sure if he competed because all the classes were separated by session, you know, because of COVID stuff. But I saw him at the check-in night for the show I just did at the Idaho Cup. And he looked like he was probably getting ready to compete. He had some diet face going on, so he might have. I'm not totally sure, but
yeah. So Keith Watson was prepping for Emerald Cup, and he saw me working out, and I think he had known that I was doing the powerlifting stuff. But he was like, "Man, like you've got a pretty good physique, Ty. You know, why do you work out? You know, what's in it for you?" And I just kind of like, "Well, man, I've always done it, and I like it, and it keeps me at my best, and all that." And he was like, "You know, you should do the Emerald Cup with me, man. Come on, like let's partner up. Let's do this men's physique prep, and I think he was just looking for a partner to suffer with, you know, somebody to you know lean on a little bit." And so we got through that prep. That was my first prep. I had no idea what I was doing. I really wasn't working with Keith had kept inviting me, "Hey Ty, you need to do these posing classes. You need to do these." I'm like thinking in my head, like, man, I do all this hard work in the gym. You know, I eat good. I work hard on my career. Like, I don't know if I got time for these posing classes right now, Keith. And he's like, "Dude, I'm telling you, man, I'm telling you about these posing classes. You need to be doing them, man, if you're going to get on stage." And I'm like, "Keith, like, no worries." And so I'm training. My whole mindset during this prep is like, I understand that I don't know what I'm doing, and that I've done enough sport that like, I think I'll figure it out. And, all I wanted from that prep, from that first competition, was to have some really good abs. Like the abs had always kind of been there, but never really like a six pack. Like, you know, I'm proud of the thing. And so I just trained my abs at the start of every workout for like 20 minutes straight. Like I would try to get as many reps like unbroken as I could, and just, you know, take some of that CrossFit craziness and put it right to the abs. And they turned out, and I made second call out in a pair of, Kroger brand, like scrunchy swim trunks, you know,
nice.
that I bought on my way to the check-in or to the competition that morning. Yeah, dude, they were atrocious, and they were like a plaid, like white plaid pattern. My tan got all over them, but I made second call out with those abs and with zero posing. So
there you go, man. There you go. With men's physique, do you get to sort of choose your own trunks? There's no standard, really. There is standards.
Okay. Like I learned a lot of this stuff the day of the competition. You know, I was just I was there like a deer in the headlights, watching all these huge monsters pump up and get just, you know, crazy looking, while I'm there like, man, you know, there really is a lot more to this sport than I thought. You know, just stand there. There's a lot more to it. Maybe I should have been doing those posing classes. So
man,
that was a big awakening. And just like that, that next level of like, hey, step your game up, you know, get up our level. That really encouraged me to, at first it was like a shock, you know, and it was like a slap in the face, like, damn, I'm really not going to do as well as I thought I might do. And then it was like, okay, you know, if all these folks can put it together like this, I'm pretty sure I can figure it out. So that invited me to step it up.
That holds so true, man. Like, you have no idea until you do that first contest exactly what goes into it. Like, it's just, there's no way to be prepared. Like, I saw, I pulled up a couple of pictures from my very first contest years ago when we were working together, and sort of compared them to pictures from the show I just did, just side by side. And like, my posing was atrocious at my first contest. Like, I had no clue how to pose. There's one in particular of me doing this back double bi, and I'm like hunched like this, like just the ugliest back double bi you'll ever see.
Doing the Quasimodo.
Yeah, man. I had no idea what I was doing. And that, as I get when you're doing all the other stuff, it's like one more box to check, and it feels kind of silly if you're not used to posing. It's kind of like, I don't want to stand in my underwear in front of another guy and pose, and you know what I mean? It feels weird at first. Right. So it's such an easy thing to skip, but it's so crucial, which
it's crucial.
Both of us learned the hard way, sounds like.
Yep, definitely learned the hard way. And yeah, you know, the judges don't see the hard work you're putting in. They don't see it besides what goes on that stage. So, yeah, that's like usually the limiting factor for a lot of athletes is the posing and how to put it together. Yeah, I mean, you know, when you're first doing it, it does feel really foreign and it feels really strange. And you're like, man, like this is really new. You know, this is kind of strange right now. But then you do a few months of it, you know, you do a couple, maybe 2 competitions of it. It really starts to flow. It starts to hit. You start to get that impressive look going on. It's like, okay, now I'm seeing the results of that work that went in.
Yeah. And once it clicks and once you understand it, it's actually a blast. Like it's a really fun part of the sport, and it's fun to figure out ways to utilize it to sort of showcase your strengths and sort of hide some of your weaknesses. Like there's a whole science behind it that's actually super cool once you understand it. Yeah. But I mean, you were a power lifter. You're coming from a powerlifting background, and I was too. And asking a power lifter to pose like that is just such a foreign concept. It's not something we're used to. We're used to just throwing weight on the bar and getting under it. So
it was up until the bodybuilding, it was all about performance. You know, it was all about what you can do with your body or what you can do with the bar. And that's how you're judged. And that for most athletes, that is easier. You know, it's a lower barrier of entry than bodybuilding. And so that can be a good way to get stuff started. If someone's interested in, you know, exploring that kind of avenue of competition.
And it's easier to wrap your head around, right? Like if you're a power lifter, you know, if you can lift 200 pounds correctly or not, and either it's going to move or it's not. But when you're first stepping into the bodybuilding world, it's like, I don't know if I'm, you know, if I look as good as the other guy. Like it's so much harder to judge yourself when you're first entering that space. So Emerald was your first contest. You did men's physique. What's your next contest? Because you've got quite a bit of hardware behind you, so there's definitely more to that story.
There's a few. So next one was Ironman 2016, and that was when Ironman 2013 or 2014. That's when I got my first trophy. And that's also when I went to a few posing classes. I think I went to 2. I went to a total of 2 before this competition. That stubborn wall was coming down just a little bit.
Yeah, gradually.
So I went to 2 posing classes, and Elaine Craig taught me how to get my lats out and how to find my lats. And then it clicked, and I had gone to a couple of these posing classes. I'm like, man, I don't know if this is working. And if I'm really not, I don't feel like I'm making much progress. I don't feel like I'm looking any better. And she came over and we were doing the back, the men's physique back pose. And she's like, sprint wider, she's like working on my back. And then like with the tactile cues, it clicked. And then my right lat was like really good. It was out there, but the left one was like twitch. It was like trying. It was like, come on. Come on. Yeah. It was like really working for it. So kept practicing, got it down, developed that connection to the muscle, and how to get that feeling. And it feels like a stretch and like a pump at the same time. It's a different feeling than any pull up, than any lat pull down, than any row. And so it was totally new. And so again, in advancing what we're doing. And
I find that sorry to interrupt. I find that engaging the lats during posing is definitely the trickiest. It's the weirdest muscle to flex, especially if it's like during a front double bi or a back double bi, something where you need to look really wide, but you're also
a lot of times we do it like this,
exactly,
like retract it down. But if you bring them out and you bring it up, then they really, you get that V, and that's hard to do with your arms up, especially if you're new.
Yeah, that was one of the last things to click for me posing wise too, for sure.
Yeah, that has definitely taken me a while to get, especially with the arms up. But men's physique is a lot more simple. You just do it with your arms down.
Okay.
And my coach didn't even try to get me to do it pretty like the men's physique guys do, where they knock a leg out and they hit an angle, they stretch it out, and they make the pose look cool. I was just standing there, legs pretty close together, just like a bodybuilder would. And
like a front relax, basically.
Just like a front relax, but from the back. Yeah. And I think it worked because I had this, kind of real powerful foundation of muscle I had built, and finally got the fat off of it all the way. And it worked, and they liked it, just because it looked strong enough. So nice. Kept developing. But yeah, took third at that competition. And once I got my first trophy at that competition, then it was on. Then I was full bore in the body.
Then you got the bug. You got the bug at that point.
Yeah. Got my first piece of hardware, got the bug, and then it was on. So then I think after that, I did Emerald Cup again.
Okay.
I did the Tangi after that. And then I think I took a break after doing those like 4 or 5 competitions. It's kind of my first series.
How'd you do at Emerald and Tangi?
Emerald, second time, no trophy. I think it was like second or third group for call outs.
Okay.
And that one really kind of bummed me out. But again, as the athlete mind does, you take a little dip, but then it helps you pick up speed and get into your next goal. And Absolutely. So then I went and prepped harder for the Tangi, and that one again, I think I got like a third or a fourth place.
Okay.
And so then after getting a few of those third or fourth places, I was like, I'm going to take a break. And because I've been doing more research on bodybuilding specifically and learning about, bulking and cutting and that whole bit. And I was still pretty, novice bodybuilder at this point. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to take a little break from the competitions, even though they're really fun and you're getting, on stage, you're getting recognition, you're bringing home some hardware, you're doing a lot of extra work to get that look, and that's kind of fun seeing the results happen. I'm like, I'm going to take a break. I'm going to do results on the other side and see how much I can grow. You know? Last time I had tried to grow really before that was in college, because I realized that around 185, 190 pounds, I can't lift these girls for the cheerleading and for the stunt. I can't throw them up there like a 40-pound guy can. You know? The guy who was teaching me was like 5'6", like 240, just a stocky, like a super strong, just little stout dude. Yeah, his name was Chris, and he was like, bro, you need to gain some weight. He was like, you're strong, but like, you got to put some weight on so you can really gain. And so I did I did Go Mad. Do you remember that thing?
I did that briefly too. Yep. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Keyword, briefly.
Oh, man.
Yeah, did the gallon of milk a day, and that took me from like a high 180 to like 205.
Okay.
Within like 5 weeks. But man, it was so rough on my system. I really don't do
dude.
After that. Like
so I gave myself like I had no problem drinking milk before I tried to do that. Like I grew up drinking milk pretty much with every meal.
Yeah.
And never had any issues with lactose or anything. And I straight up gave myself lactose intolerance by doing GOMAD, just way too much for my body to handle. But then, so it was just wreaking havoc on my stomach, but I didn't want to stop because my weight was finally going up. So I started buying the lactose free milk.
Yeah.
But you could only buy them in the half-gallon cartons and not the full-gallon jug. Uh-huh. So I would buy 2 every day, and they were like $4 each. I was spending like $8 a day on milk. That's a lot of milk. It is, man. And then I would carry the cartons around, and I would try to get both of them in by the end of the day. It was just ridiculous, man.
Yeah, stuff we do, man. Stuff we do to get to that next level, but. Same thing with me. I gave myself lactose intolerance doing the GOMAD.
Yeah.
It did, it got me to my weight gain goal, but I got lactose intolerance in the process. And so, so started doing more almond milk and more, rice milk and stuff like that. The rice milk is really key with the growing. For me, my body responds to carbs pretty darn well. So started doing more of that. But anyways, I was like, I'm going to take some time off. I'm going to gain weight. It's been a few years since I really tried to gain very, very strongly. And I started doing more research on it. Started seeing more results with the weight gain and the progress. And I was like, okay, I think this can work. And so, I did my first real kind of successful bulk. And then I worked, more closely with a coach this time, and we kind of trusted the coach more and let them take over a little bit more. And it turned out way better from that point forward, nice. Fully just investing into the plan. It's like, I'm asking for this plan. I might as well do it 100%,
Yeah. I feel like as kind of a young trainer / coach yourself, there's always that period of time where it's hard to like fully commit to being somebody's client. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like down the road, you learn the value to that and how really it's the value in what we do too. So it doesn't make sense for us not to value it. Otherwise, what are we doing? Right. But it takes a while to actually, just like you said, put your trust fully into somebody. Cause it's like, well, hey, I'm a coach. Like I know what I'm doing. Kind of. And depending on what it is, but having that second pair of eyes, like even if up here exactly what you need to do, having that second pair of eyes is so crucial. So crucial. Yeah. And that second brain when you're deep into prep and you can't think like a reasonable person anymore.
Yes.
So important.
That's key, man. It's also somebody else with probably, at least a decade of experience in the sport. A lot of these coaches, who are helping athletes prep have got a lot of time and they've spent a lot of years getting this down. And so that really, because they can see your physique compared to somebody else's, and they'll know, like you were saying earlier, how to bring out your attributes and how to showcase what you've got, as well as kind of mask or, disappear some of the stuff that's, not quite ready. So that brings me to a point that I'm really curious about. And it's actually kind of low key, the main topic of this podcast is there's all of these weird little anecdotal things that you do in bodybuilding that don't always align with what you're taught as a coach or as a trainer. Yeah. And especially someone like you that has the formal education of that degree, there's sort of that disparity between the stuff that anecdotally has been proven to work for bodybuilders for decades. Yeah. And the science, the research driven science that you're taught in your education. What's your take on some of the more bro sciencey stuff in the bodybuilding world? Because that's been a struggle for me of trying to find that balance between using my education and the research that I've done. And then, here's the stuff that maybe doesn't really make sense to me scientifically, but clearly it works. So, right. Oh yeah. What was your experience sort of dealing with that as you were prepping? Oh man, the bro science with bodybuilding is strong. It's like, bodybuilding has its own language, you know, kind of like exercises can have 3 or 4 different names. Bodybuilding has its own vocabulary and its own language. So, you know, my educational background in the clinical physiology, and I'm also a certified strength and conditioning specialist. Both of those are really technically driven, you know, with parameters and protocols and different numbers that you're going to measure things and different ways to assess. And that's all really good. And a lot of times that really helps, especially when you're training a team or you're trying to keep organized with athletes and you're trying to give them enough, because as the athlete, we always want to find that line between stimulation and annihilation, right? And it's a pretty fine line sometimes. And so when you're working with people, you want to be able to program effectively, get good hard workouts, but not push them too far to an injury. So, so a lot of that as my background, and then coming into bodybuilding and a lot of the you know, stuff that has been occurring for decades and helping people get this stage look is totally backwards or a complete inverse relationship to what the, you know, the educational type stuff or the clinically tested things might be. So, some of the things I wrote down, you know, you sent me this question, I jotted a few things down that came up across my mind. And so, over the years, man, things change a lot, you know, things advance and things change. And some of the older things, like when I first started competing and I started learning about this, you know, the dehydration protocols were pretty popular and some people still swear by them. But man, I've tried, you know, kind of the water loading and the water tapering where maybe 2 weeks out, you bring your water up each day to the point to where maybe you were doing 1.5 gallons or maybe even 2 gallons just every day on your prep. You're sweating so much, you need that sometimes. And so you bring it up, maybe 3 gallons, maybe 4 gallons by the end of week 2. And then it tapers back down. Right. Peak week, it comes back down. And man, by the time you get done with that peak week, you're already depleted of carbs, depleted of fats. You know, your brain, your everything is like halfway switched on. There's just not enough fuel for anything else to occur besides basic, you know, function. And then you start pulling the water out of that system. Like, brother, good luck feeling good enough to remember your posing routine or to you know, remember how to get your muscles online and all that posing you did while you were fueled up and you were energized. Man, it's tough. You got to train. It's like, if you want to get good at swimming, you got to swim, right? And it's like, if you want to get good at posing, you got to pose. And if you want to like have the posing that you've done work well on the stage, your stage setting should be kind of similar to how you were practicing, right? And you're in order to hit it the same way that you're practicing, because your practice is what you're going to showcase. There is no magical peak week, you know, magical fat loss, magical water disappears, you know, that doesn't happen. Like, despite what some of the protocols try to make you believe or whatever, you know, that one of my other topics is that like the competition is won, you know, weeks or maybe months ahead of when the competition takes place. And having that. So the number one thing, I'll get into that a little bit later, but the number one thing was the dehydration protocols and how, so what I usually do now, especially if I've done my diligence on my prep and I'm in a good spot where I'm going to make weight, I will water load into peak week and I will kind of increase the water a little bit. But again, like if I like how I'm looking on my posing in my practice sessions, I'm not going to change much, you know? And I think that was one of the old school. Yeah, go ahead. Or
that's the biggest thing, man. It's like when you're looking your best, you shouldn't have to change anything. You know what I mean? And I think that's a misconception that a lot of competitors have. It's like, because there's this big mysticism around peak week, they feel like they need to do all these drastic things right at the last minute. And everything I've seen and experienced myself leads me to believe that anything, if you're prepared, anything drastic you do at the last minute is just going to backfire, you know?
Exactly.
This last prep, I ended up doing the exact same thing as you just described, where I water loaded going into peak week and then just sort of tapered off in a reasonable way. But I found that the last few weeks of prep, my body was just getting rid of water anyway. Like I was sort of maintaining that, like you said, 1.5 gallons, 2 gallons of water. And that was enough for my body to just flush everything out. Like it was just cooperating. So I think if you're in that stage and things are going smooth, there's no reason to push something drastic like that. I agree.
Right. I've
100%.
seen athletes that I've been coaching have a great physique. They're looking good. And then for whatever reason, they didn't follow the plan. They started taking these water pills, or they started changing their water, or they started changing their workouts. And all of a sudden their physique starts to turn backwards and starts to head the opposite direction. It starts looking like it's 5 or 6 weeks out again. And I'm like, what happened? What did you do? What's going on?
What did you do?
You know, and now we have damage control with hours left to get it dialed in, you know? So it's, you know, like we were saying, you know, it's, if you like how it's looking and you've been following your prep and you've been doing it right by making adjustments, you know, way ahead of time, then you're going to basically get to your stage look by week 3 or week 2. And at that point you get to maintain it, right? Take lots of pictures. Like you get to really just, you know, get in with that instead of trying to magically make something happen peak week that hasn't been there the whole time. You know, it's like, you gotta really do it ahead.
Yeah. And that also, I was just going to say that also reiterates what we were saying about the importance of having a coach, or at least somebody in your corner, because man, those last couple of weeks, it's so easy as that overly depleted athlete to like you're second guessing everything at that point. Yeah. So you're like, I'll confess, I was doing the same thing. You're on Google looking up like, okay, what am I not doing that I should be? And then you see one thing that you're not doing and you're like, oh, I need to do that. Because you're looking for every small, like incremental percentage of improvement you can. And sometimes you just need a coach or somebody to look at you and go, no, you're fine. Like just chill. Just do what you're doing. It's working. Yeah, it's working. You know, don't mix it up. Don't get it crazy. So, things like 100%. That, you know, where it's like, oh, I need to really, you know, deplete the muscle glycogen in the last 2 weeks. I'm going to train really intensely with a lot of weight. You know, I'm going to really push it. I'm going to see if I can hit a PR in the last 2 weeks of prep. It's like, dude, no way. I injured my back doing that, man. Like, did you? I was young and crazy and just fired up and really excited about competing. And I didn't follow the plan. And I was on a leg press. I think it was at Eastside. I was on a leg press and I just kept putting another plate on there. I'm like, yeah, this is going good. I'm like, I'm going to do one more plate last set. And I'm going to go like 5 reps or something stupid on the leg press, you know, super heavy for me that I hadn't been doing. And I'm going to really get my legs going. And sure enough, that last set got me, dude. I had my belt on too tight on this old leg press and it got me in the back, dude. And I don't think I walked for like 2 days after that. But like the body, as you prep, you know, the body, I was good, you know, chiropractor and do some ice and some supplements for the joints and good to go. And then actually, so I missed the Vancouver Natural, but then I competed in the Emerald Cup like a month later. So I just stayed on prep and made my body, you know, recover and got it going. That's good. So it turned out okay.
It turned out okay. Yeah, it was all right. But man, you know, that trying to do crazy stuff. The body's dehydrated. The body, you know, the discs and the joints, they get dry, they get tight, they get you know, achy. Your body's already like in a fragile kind of like halfway, you know, like switched off state because of how depleted you are and how it's you know, it's a really kind of sensitive thing at that point. So don't want to give it too much new stuff. You know, you want to work with the body. Right.
And even just from like a body fat perspective, like you're so close to just essential body fat to exist that there is no internal fat. Like you have no visceral fat at that point. It's all subcutaneous and there's barely any of it. So like everything that you normally have a little cushion, you know, around your organs and everything floating around inside. And you don't have that the last couple of weeks of prep. Like you're pretty fragile at that point for sure. I had a warning sign and I'm really glad I did because it forced me to pump the brakes with my training a little bit. But I was on the hack squat machine, and I was probably like 3 or 4 weeks out at this point. And I was going heavier than I needed to. I think I had like 6 plates on each side, something like that.
Oh yeah. Good work.
And I was knocking out like sets of, I don't know, 8, 10, somewhere in there. And on like rep 5 or 6, something popped a little bit in my hip. And I was like, And I immediately racked it and kind of walked it off. And it ended up being fine. Like, it was probably a little bit of scar tissue that broke loose, something minor, like nothing. I didn't tear anything. I was good. But just that little warning sign, I was like, okay, maybe this is dumb what I'm doing. Maybe just slow down a little bit, for sure.
Yeah. Maybe take 2 or 3 plates off and bring those reps way up, and burn some fat and get some veins going, pump them instead of punish it.
Right. Maybe do 20 reps with 3 instead of, as heavy as I can for 8 at that point.
Yeah, 20 sounds more like it.
Exactly.
Good job. Yeah, good job listening to your body, man. A lot of athletes, they it takes some years, like it took me, to really like pay attention to listen to your body and listen to what your body's asking for. If your body wants some more sleep, or if it wants some more water, or whatever the case is, or if it wants a lighter weight on that day, like, listen to it, man, and work with the body.
Yeah. No, that's so key. And that's something that you can't even really teach somebody how to do. It's just something that you develop after rep after rep after rep. You start to really get in tune with what your body's doing at any given time.
Yep. Another thing that kind of got my attention as like an old school thing is like 0 carb or 0 fat is the way to go. That'll get you on the stage. You know what I mean? Just take a whole macronutrient out of your diet,
just
and
eliminate it.
2 out of 3 cylinders and get you there. Yeah, that stuff never really works long term. I mean, you'll get some results initially. Like, I'm not going to lie, you pull carbs out, there's going to be some water loss, you'll get some fat loss, you'll deplete muscles, you'll lose some weight. And you reintroduce those carbs, and guess what? Hey, here comes some of that weight. And you'll get full again. Hopefully the fat loss will stay, and hopefully the fat loss will remain lost. But taking all the fats out is never, that's what I've also done before on a prep. And I looked good. I looked like real dry, real stringy, real hard and up. And I won a double overall in that competition. That was in the 2016 Ironman for the open bodybuilding and the open classic physique. But man, I think I had like 20 or 25 grams of fat a day for like 12 weeks. I dropped 43 pounds for that prep, and it was, I looked really good, but man, I didn't feel that great. And,
I bet.
doing that much cardio, it was like 90 minutes of interval cardio per day, split into 2 45 sessions, plus like a 75 or 90-minute lift, and then doing the nutrition perfect. And boy, that was a lot of work. But so I trained smarter after that one, a lot smarter. Don't pull the fats too low.
The lowest I went with my fats was probably like, I think the lowest I got was like 40. Okay. And even that, it doesn't feel good having your fats that low. I think people always talk about carbs, like, oh, I'm carb depleted, so I have low energy. Like, I need some carbs. But man, people don't realize a lot of what actually keeps the lights on up top is the fats. You need those fats in your system just to function.
Yes.
So that actually brings me to a specific question that I'm curious to hear your take on. How do you feel about the fish, the fish thinning out your skin, bro science that always comes in the last couple of weeks of prep? Like, did you go 100% seafood with your preps at the end, or what's your take on that?
For one, it's too expensive for my cheap ass. I can't do that.
No kidding.
2, I don't like the taste or the texture when it comes out the microwave after I just reheated it.
Yeah.
And
And then the surrounding 2,000 square feet of wherever you reheated it just reeks.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. Everybody's like, why did you have to do that? Darn. So, it's, fish on the prep is just one more like hurdle to jump over and one more freaking, obstacle in the way. So, I mean, don't get me wrong, like fish is super low fat. It's like, it's really, it's compared to a lot of other proteins, a little bit lower density, which sometimes is a good thing because it makes the protein a little easier to assimilate for the body and to pick it up, and to get that protein into the blood. So, I by no means am I zero seafood. I'll do shrimp or cod or whatever kind of seafood for dinner. Maybe if, I have a lunch at home, I'll do it then, but I always cook it fresh, and I just do 1 or 2 meals of seafood a day. And just to honestly, I look at it as the same as chicken, the same as turkey, the same as the lean ground stuff. It's just another protein source with a different amino acid profile. So I definitely use it. But it's not the only thing I go to. And I don't think there's any difference, prep wise as far as fish versus chicken versus, I mean, some people's like systems don't really do like red meat or like heavy proteins very well. So for people, with a little bit more sensitive system, I think it can work well.
But it's more about like digestibility, right? Like that was my biggest thing with fish is I feel like it just breaks down so quick.
Right.
So like if you have white fish with white rice, it's like an hour later, there's nothing in your stomach.
Yeah.
And when you're on prep, especially in those last few weeks and you're trying to eat every couple hours and maybe your protein goal is higher, there's some benefit to that. Like that's the main reason why I started incorporating more seafood. But I'm with you, man. Like there's nothing that I can think of that makes any logical sense as to why consuming only white fish would do anything to your skin. It just doesn't add up. It doesn't add up.
No, I'm not with it. So, it goes into the other factors, the bigger factors like the metabolism, and what the athlete's been doing and, the last few months, what have they been up to the last few months is going to be a bigger factor for the skin thickness versus just eating the fish.
That brings up another thing I'm curious about.
Yeah.
What would you say is the weirdest quote unquote prep food that you've ever incorporated? Like, is there anything really weird that you started eating? For me, and this was completely just my own cravings, satisfying my own cravings. But the last couple of weeks of prep, I started putting crushed ice in a glass and like the little all natural stevia drops. I would put, I had like a chocolate flavored one and I would put a couple of drops in the crushed ice and I would just eat the ice with a spoon and pretend like it was dessert. Cause that's how much I was craving sugar. So is there anything like that you can think of that you've done on any of your preps that's just really out there?
Oh yeah. 100%. So probably the number one strange thing, but I don't know. I still kind of, do it from time to time just to mix it up. But I'll take I bought one of those, at home DIY popsicle kits, right? It's got the tray and then it's got the little stick, and you can reuse it, wash it. I bought one of those. And what I started doing was mixing up aminos with a little bit of stevia or sweetener and then mix a kind of a strong batch of aminos and then pour it into the tray and make amino popsicles with it and munch on those guys when I felt sorry for myself.
That's kind of brilliant. I might have to do that on my next prep.
Try it out. It'll get your mind off of the sweets. That's for sure.
That's a good idea, man. Yeah. Cause with my method, it's like, if once you chomp through enough of the glass full of crushed ice, you kind of run out of the stevia and then you're just chewing on ice. Like it's really, it really doesn't do much to satisfy that craving. So but I like that. Damn.
Yeah. Technically ice chips are negative calories, right? Through thermogenesis.
Yeah. There you go. There you go. You're burning fat. Food.
Yeah, exactly. Eating ice to burn the fat. Let's grow. Let's get it.
That's hilarious. So that brings me, go ahead.
One more is I will hoard Oreos.
Okay.
I'm like a squirrel. So every time I go to the store, I'll go down the cookie aisle just to like get a look and just to see if there's any new types. And like, I'm like, oh man, I can't wait to eat these red velvet Oreos. Let's go. And so I'll take the box and I put it in the cart. And like the whole process of searching for it and selecting one and putting it in the cart and paying for it, bringing it home, putting it in the pantry, looking at it, that like, I don't know why, but that whole process, like it helps me avoid the Oreos because it's like my safety blanket is like right there in the pantry. Like if I have a complete freak out and I have to have something sweet, it's right there. And I almost feel like having that like safety net of sweets in the pantry keeps me from going off the rails, you know?
That's interesting. I could see that. Like, because if your pantry is completely void of anything like that, then every time you look in the pantry, you're thinking, man, I wish there were Oreos in here. Right. Right. So if they're there and you can look at them, you're like, okay, I know I can't have it, but it's there. It's waiting for me.
Exactly. So
that's funny,
that's
man.
the other strange thing I'll do on prep is I hoard, like, by the time I get done with a prep, dude, I've got like 10 or 12 freaking boxes of Oreos and I end up giving most of them away. So, you know, it's just thing I do. Yeah.
That is awesome, man. I love that. So that's a really good segue into my favorite question for competitors, which is, what is the biggest, gnarliest, nastiest cheat meal, whether coming off of a prep or otherwise, that you can remember?
Oh yeah. So my biggest cheat meal, coming off of a show, I've done it a few times where I'll go and just eat an entire XL pizza or, you know, whatever, and just binge and just eat. And then I end up paying for it, you know, the next couple of days, because my body hasn't seen fat like that or grease in so long. And it just, you know, so you can do that later on, you know, when your system's a little warmed up to it. But the gnarliest thing I ever did was at Beth's Cafe. You know Beth's Cafe on 99, like North Seattle?
No.
Oh, man. 24-hour diner. One of those joints with like the customers like crayon cartoon drawings as wallpaper around the entire place. It's been there decades. Yeah, it's just a good, you know, greasy kitchen, really heavy foods, and it's really good stuff. So,
dude, I love those old school diners like that.
Yes, dude, it's a super old school diner, and they've got some hardcore stuff, and it's just, you know, all about the people. So it's really cool. Right there. Yeah, it's called Beth's Cafe. Amazing. They have an omelet challenge. They have an omelet. It's called the triple bypass. Right.
Okay. Love it.
The guy who does Man versus Food, I think he tried the triple bypass twice, and I believe that he failed. You might want to.
Oh,
you know,
wow.
you know, I believe he failed twice on the triple bypass. I've tried it twice, failed both times, but man, it's always an epic journey. So it's a 12 egg omelet, and
holy shit,
bro, the whole thing comes out on a pizza tray for like a large pizza, right?
Oh my god!
It's got this bed of hash browns underneath it, and then you got a 12 egg omelet that's got cheese, bacon, sausage. What else? There's one more. Ham, diced ham. And then I think there might be like some green peppers like sprinkled on top, and that's it. It's just heavy duty.
Dude. Oh my god, that sounds really, really daunting. That's wild. So even so, when you said 12 egg omelet, even just thinking about that on its own, just eating 12 eggs is enough. Right. And then when you add in like all the heavy meats and then the hash browns, like, damn, dude, that's quite an undertaking. How close did you get?
So one time I got about, like, I would say about two thirds. Yeah.
That's pretty impressive, dude.
Dude, but my belly was like, I was like taking my shirt off. My stomach was so big, like got the meat sweats, you know, like it was brutal.
Oh, man, I believe it. It's probably like 120 grams of protein in one go or something like that. At least, dude. I've tried it to where I go and I train legs or back or something, big workout.
and then and just, you know, leave it all in the gym and then go and try to crush that on and it defeats me every time, bro. But it's always fun, you know, it's always fun giving it a run for the money.
Dude, that sounds like you and I need to go give that another try here in a little bit.
We should hit them up, man. It'd be impressive, the box that thing comes in, you know?
I bet. That's so funny. An omelet the size of a large pizza. Oh my God. That's wild. All right, man. I'm not going to keep you too much longer. We've been on a while and I've got clients and I know you probably do too. But I have one more important question for you.
Yeah.
And I think that it's one that will help a lot of people that are kind of in our shoes as trainers / competitors. You're somebody that I've always known to be super busy all the time. Like from when you started at Gold's to you and I worked at another gym, Lifetime, very briefly together. Yep. You're just always one of the busiest, if not the busiest trainer in the building at any given time. And now I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, you're sort of doing your own thing, running your own business full time as well.
Yeah.
So that takes up a lot of time.
Oh yeah.
How do you balance doing all that, servicing all those sessions, training all those clients with prep, especially the last like 3 or 4 weeks when you've got no energy for anything? Like, how do you manage that balance?
Great question. Yeah. The prep is basically, there's something you're doing every single hour. Yeah. You're checking boxes every single hour of the day that you're awake that is going to get you to the look you want, you know, in the next, you know, whatever, how many weeks. So taking on that plus your normal workload and, you know, trying to help a lot of people and make it happen is a lot. I'm not going to lie. It's really tough. There have been preps where I am managing or helping myself manage it by taking insane amounts of caffeine. Like I think there was one prep where I between the pre-workout and the thermo and some coffee, I think I was doing like 1,500 milligrams of caffeine a day. Damn. And yeah, I had to detox from that and give the kidneys and the adrenals a little break. So sure. I'm good now. You know, I only need like 100 or 200 milligrams a day and I feel great. But anyways, so, you know, stimulants really help, you know, they really help. But again, you know, having this balance, we know that the importance of sleep, you know, so we can't be overdoing stimulants and risking losing our sleep because that's where we recover and we can keep it going. So it's a really tough thing. What I like to do, it starts with the meal prep. And the meal prep has got to be like fully done so that there's only like 2 steps left to eat that meal before I need it, because, you know, your day is going to start with clients. You're going to have clients and calls. You're going to have a break for a meal. You're going to have clients and calls, a break for a meal, hopefully a workout somewhere around there, and then clients and calls, and then maybe another meal or 2 to finish out the day. So, so the food is like key number 1, right? That's got to be ready, 100% portioned out in Tupperwares, if not before the start of my day, at the start of my day, right there. So, so I got to have my meals ready so that all I have to do, throw it in the microwave and I can maybe start a call while it's microwaving and, you know, finish that call by the time the food's done or by the time I'm starting my meal, crush that meal within about 5 or 10 minutes, get back to business. And then just kind of repeating that process a few times throughout the day. And I really have to like get on my calendar and schedule. Like every hour is like scripted and scheduled, and I'm constantly like, I have a clock up on the wall somewhere so that I can make sure my timing is good. But this process to this level has taken me a few years to develop. You know, it used to be work comes first, prep comes second. My meals will land where they land. My workout will happen where it happens. And that usually ended up putting me with all of my prep activities, including most of my food and my workout at the very end of my day, right? When work had been accomplished. And so, you know, it worked. I'd say it worked. I wouldn't say it worked most optimal setting, but it worked for a few years. And now I'm to the point to where I know myself, I know my schedule, and I have control of my schedule to where I can script in, you know, some 15 or 30-minute breaks throughout my day to get the meal, you know, to stretch a little bit, to do whatever it is I need to do. And so really hold myself to that schedule. It what allows me to take care of business. But I also reduce my client load a little bit during prep. Like I'll reduce it just a little bit because I know that I'm not going to be able to sustain the same amount of workload with that prep load.
Yeah.
So, so I'll do those things. And this all kind of goes back to that sport and like competitive scholastic background, right? Where you start in school and you have to manage school with sport, right? You have to because the sport is way more fun than school, right? Like football gave me motivation to go to school and to do the schoolwork, because I knew that if I didn't have good enough grades and I didn't do my schoolwork, I couldn't play football, right? And so it was kind of like this upward spiral effect. And then I started getting better at the football. I feel like my brain started to mature and get more powerful through the strength training. And that helped me in my schoolwork and helped me elevate my performance there. So I do some things, I do some things to make sure that I create enough time for myself, but that I also have enough time to take care of my clients and to make sure that I'm doing my best effort to make sure that they're getting what they need at the same time as I'm prepping. So it's a major balancing act, and it takes a few years to really get it down well.
Yeah, no, I agree with everything you said. It makes me feel better that you also reduce your client load, because I ended up having to do the same thing at the end of prep. Yeah. And as a chronically busy trainer, you kind of feel like you're, I don't know, it feels like a little bit of a defeat when you have to like dial back your training hours. But what I did is I just sort of shifted some stuff to online, which thankfully we have the technology now to do that really effectively. Yeah. And I'm right there with you with the calendar, man. Like if you look at my calendar, those last few weeks, it was like every single hour was scheduled, and I had alarms set to remind me to eat every few hours. Yes,
the alarms.
Yeah. And then the other thing that I would add, and I'm assuming you probably have the same principle that you follow, is just being really open and communicative with your clients about it. Like, for some reason, earlier in prep, I had this notion that I sort of had to put on a strong face for all my sessions and sort of pretend that I was still at 100% capacity and just sort of suffer through it as much as I could. And I realized that was probably giving a worse result for the client. So the last few weeks, I would just tell them, I'm like, look, just so you know, if I seem like I don't want to be here, I do. And I want to give you a great workout. Here's what I'm going through, and here's why my eyes are half open now versus how I was looking a couple weeks ago. Yeah. Is that something that you try to do as well with your clients?
Yes. And sometimes I forget, and they're like, hey, what's up, Ty? Hey, what's next, man? And I'm like, oh, sorry. Like I was daydreaming about Oreos again.
Right.
Yeah. If the lights aren't all the way on, it's because, I'm all the way into this competition, and I'm starting. So, let's keep it moving. And so,
no, I think that's key. And I think the right type of client will be very understanding to that. And I found that my clients also sort of like they want to hear about what their trainer is doing, and they draw a lot of motivation and inspiration from it. So when you're real with your clients and you're open about I'm going through it and I'm really struggling these last couple of weeks, they see that. And even if your energy isn't quite where it normally is for their sessions, they're still getting a lot of value just seeing what you're doing.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So, usually on prep, I feel really good until those last, maybe 2 to 3 weeks where you're really pulling the fuel down so you can get ready for the stage ahead of time. I usually feel pretty darn good, and I'm usually looking really well. And so it's funny because training in person, people see you, and kind of your physique is like one of your best billboards, right? As far as what you can do and what you can. And so as your physique starts to get peaking and it starts to look better and better each week, people around you take notice. And it's funny because oftentimes I get a lot more like inquiries and a lot more, clients who are interested in training and stuff as I get closer to the stage. And I'm like, you got, like, I'm already maxed out. Like I got no room left. So it's a good problem. It's still a problem, but it's a good problem.
Absolutely. I had a similar experience, and you end up kind of having to go like, look, like, call me in 3 weeks for sure. Like I'll have the energy and time for you in 3 weeks, but just not quite yet. Not quite yet.
Yep, exactly. So yeah, again, I get back on the schedule and I just schedule them out for, the following week after the competition start then.
Perfect.
But yeah, like you said, your clients get inspired by it because they see you putting in the work and making it happen and grinding it out. And they're like, wow, this is happening right before my eyes. And it really helps. Yeah, it helps them to elevate their level of play and to get more results for themselves, for sure.
Absolutely. Well, cool, man. I think that will provide a ton of value for anyone out there who is sort of trying to balance, even if you're not a trainer, even if you're just somebody who has a business or is just chronically busy like we are. I think that provides a really good perspective on that for people. I think that'll help a lot of people out.
And I like that about the online coaching. That's really been key, especially with the whole distancing and COVID stuff, being able to reach out to people in their homes, hey, knock, knock, knock. I care about you. What are you doing? Here's a workout. Feel better, come on, let's get to it.
Exactly.
And just kind of bring them up a little bit, shake up the day. Everybody's in their cave inside their house. It's like, come on, let's do it.
Exactly. And it's hard, man, when you're stuck at home, especially if you're trying to work out from home, which a lot of people are right now. It's like, this is where you're used to chilling and maybe working, but it's not your typical workout space. So it's just hard to motivate yourself to do it. Yeah. So that's where we come in.
Yep. 100%. Yeah. Let's get after the progress.
Exactly. All right, man. Well, I think that about wraps it up. That was a lot of really good topics. There's a million more questions I could ask you, but we've been on a while, so I'll let you go, but definitely let's do this again, man.
Absolutely. I had a great time.
Heck yeah. Same here. Well, thank you very much, Ty. Guys, if you saw value out of this, which I'm sure many of you did, because this was an awesome episode, please share it with somebody. Doesn't have to be a big, elaborate social media shout out by any means, but if there's somebody personally who would get some value out of this, definitely pass it along. I appreciate that big time. And then share, comment, review wherever you're listening to this. That makes a big difference, helps me out a lot. And just keep tuning in. Planning on having lots more awesome guests on here, just like Ty. And
bro, baby, let's go.
Probably not to the level of the double front bicep or the amount of hardware behind him. You're probably
I'll get you some real pics.
There you go. But all right, man. Thank you again, Ty, and thank you guys for listening.
Thanks, guys.
All right, see you next week, guys.